All news, all the time. SiriusXM Road Dog Trucking News is on the air. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it. Call Mark Willis now at 888-876-2336. Weigh in on the top news stories. Road Dog Trucking News starts right now.
Drivers, want to welcome you to the first hour of SiriusXM's Road Dog Trucking News. Thanks for being out there. And yep, this is a live radio show, ladies and gentlemen. I am broadcasting from J.B. Hunt's world headquarters in the great city of Fayetteville. And there's a reason why I'm here. Ladies and gentlemen, J.B. Hunt is holding their 2018 Million Mile Driver celebration. And, man, what a lot of fun. A lot of fun. There's a lot of awards being handed out, a lot of recognition for the drivers that are out there, the 2 million milers, the 3 million milers, and just to see the sense of enthusiasm and the excitement is very infectious. I mean, we've got a lot of smiles, a lot of handshakes going on, a lot of clapping going on as well, and it was really great to come out and see this. And I wanted to bring on board my first guest, Shelley Simpson, and Shelley is the Chief Commercial Officer of J.B. Hunt, and she does a lot of great work. She covers a lot of different things like the J.B. Hunt 360, but we wanted to spend a lot of the time talking about the drivers today, right? Good to see you again.
Absolutely. So good to see you, Mark.
Yeah, it's great to be back. And we were out here last year, as a matter of fact, and what a great campus, beautiful location. And, when the invite went out to come up and see what goes on at the Million Mile Celebration for the drivers out there, man, I jumped all over that. Thank you for inviting me. What a lot of fun and a lot of hard work's gone into this. Talk about that.
A lot of volunteers putting this together. So you can just imagine we start planning this several months in advance.
Yep.
And I bet when we asked you to come, you thought you knew what you might experience. But I'm certain it's just an experience that until you are here present, getting to see what happens, it's just so hard to consume. It's we always say this is the highlight of our year, getting to honor our drivers.
That's what it's all about. It's all about the people. And, when this morning when we arrived, had the opportunity to stand at the bottom of the staircase where the drivers were coming down and they were getting high fives. There was a lot of congratulatory hand clapping and handshakes going on and things like that. A real sense of family is here. Talk about that. That's got to be very rewarding to see all that.
Well, it's not uncommon for people to start their first professional job here at J.B. Hunt and then just grow up inside the organization. So, there's strengths and weaknesses, Mark, and people seeing us grow up from, very young in our career. But it's just amazing the feeling that we have. And you saw that when they actually came down.
It's really incredible.
The emotion, not just of our drivers, but of their families and then of our people. The emotion is just overwhelming. Just the level of pride you have for them personally, but also just for our organization. It's like the heartbeat of our company coming together at that one special moment. It's just something that's so hard to replicate.
What was a lot of fun too is that a lot of the wives were coming down the stairs as well, and a lot of the kids. I mean, I saw a lot of young children coming down the stairs, and it was like, oh man, Dad's getting a lot of applause here. Big smiles on the part of the children. That's got to be a lot of fun to see as well.
Well, and I'm sure that the drivers are looking at their children like, see, I am a pretty big deal. Because speaking as a mom, oftentimes our children don't necessarily know everything that we do at work, but they got the experience. Probably you and I probably never got the opportunity to see our parents, right there at work with recognition. And I even saw a couple of sons that they were so choked up they barely could say anything. Just pride swelling watching their father accept their award.
And that's got to be, I think, a lifetime achievement because, when you do hit a 2 million mile mark or a 3 million mile mark, man, that's an incredible accomplishment for the trucking industry because in order to achieve that, you've got to be very safe, you've got to be conscientious, you've got to be focused, really focused on what you're doing to make sure that you're able to get from point A to point B. How important is that training, that dedication? That's got to start at the top.
At the very top. Yeah. And, Craig Harper, I know you'll get an opportunity to have Craig Harper on, but I was sitting here watching the event thinking how proud that Craig has to be in bringing that culture. And for us, we're celebrating 20 years of safety here this year of just reinventing what we think of safety. And certainly that starts with driving, but it also starts with expectations. We set that up on the very front end, all the way from, our president and CEO all the way down so that a driver knows, listen, safety that is critical for a driver out on the road, and we don't want to ever risk them or anyone else for that matter.
When you talk to drivers out there, when you bring up the whole idea about safety, they've got some ideas and suggestions as well, and I'm sure a lot of that's incorporated into the training regimen that you guys have. How important is the communication, the feedback, say, between, say, the corporate structure management or fleet managers and the driver? How important is that open door policy?
Well, their fleet manager is their lifeline back into our organization, and so their manager becomes so critical. And then being able to communicate how they feel about their job, what, even though they might have a full set of hours, how do they personally feel? And we really leave that up to the driver to communicate back and forth with the fleet manager. Last night I was talking with one of our 2 million mile drivers.
Sure.
And he said, he was bragging so much on his fleet manager. He said, I just have to tell you, I had a full set of hours just the other day, and I just didn't feel well. And instead of calling and getting in trouble, if you will, for not being able to run, my fleet manager said, hey, we all have days we don't feel well. Let's reset your hours. And that's so important, that connectivity and that bond. They are talking to each other every single day. So that manager is really our front line.
You think about a company the size of J.B. Hunt, and you think of how many trucks that are out there and, a presence in all parts of the United States. And then you think, okay, can a big organization like that, do they recognize what the driver needs and how do they address what the driver's concerns are? It starts with the people, having folks that are listening on the other end of the phone, talking with the drivers out there, realizing what they need, and then the driver's responsibilities as well. That's the basis for a great foundation building, isn't it?
Totally agree. And if you look inside our organization, many other organizations, that decentralized nature where we're there, seeing them on a regular basis, having those conversations, just really understanding what that looks like. And then for people here at corporate, being able to do this event here at corporate, it helps connect people in payroll, in our IT organization, in HR that might not have ever had that experience before. It allows them to see firsthand why do they do what they do and who we really, at the end of the day, are here to support back here in corporate.
Does that motivate you each day?
Oh, so motivating. This is like a recharge, a refresh for our people, that they lead with the same sense of pride, saying, you know what, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to do what I need to do to help our professional drivers on the road.
Hey, drivers, if you want to get in and chat right now, you're more than welcome to do that. I've got Shelley Simpson, and she is with J.B. Hunt, and we are at the J.B. Hunt 2018 Million Mile Driver Celebration. And earlier this afternoon, drivers, we had the opportunity to hear Mrs. Hunt. She was talking with the folks in the audience, and she was talking about some of the, the stories about the company and where the company is going to be going from here. And it is a great honor, Mrs. Hunt, to be able to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Good afternoon.
Well, thank you, Mark.
It is wonderful.
It's my honor to be here with you.
It's wonderful to see you. It's really a lot of fun and great to talk with you. And there's so many different stories that, that you could share with us out there. But, you look at what is at the heart of all of this. It's the people. You've got great folks here, don't you?
We have the best. We really do. It's the people that's made it happen. I said we may get the name of starting it, but we could never have done it if it hadn't been for all these young, energetic people that came to work with us. And they made it happen, and they continue to make it happen.
Some of the fun stories you were mentioning about how you met Mr. Hunt, and the story about how that you outraced a number of other girls to meet him and get into the truck. Talk about that. That's a lot of fun.
Well, I just outran all of my friends when he pulled up in this pretty red Ford truck with his name on the side, Johnny Hunt, Heber Springs, Arkansas. And I had all this big group of friends. We were called the Dirty Dozen, our group, and that was way back before the movie or anything. We were the original. And he drove down the street, and we stopped him. And the second night, we stopped him. I outran all of my friends and jumped in the truck, and I got beside him, and I just stayed there. I just never left that spot.
And he grew the company. You two worked side by side.
We worked side by side.
It must have been a great feeling. I know there was some ups and there were some downs, but, you look at where the organization has come from and where it is now, you've got to be extremely proud.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Never dreamed it would happen because you don't think about things like that. You just get by a day at a time. And, when I hear the numbers now of how many trucks, how many employees, and all this and that, and I still will kind of take a breath because it's like you don't think in terms like that. You know, you just start out and you're small, and you start out with 5 trucks and 7 trailers, and you start out with a little company like we did, and you just work as hard as you can, do the best you can, and one day you look up and here we are. But it's because of the people we had that came alongside us. And when these drivers today that we're celebrating, it's just the biggest day, the best day. When you think of these drivers that have been so dedicated to stay on the road, the hardest job, truck driving is a very hard job. If our country would just realize what truck drivers really mean to this nation, instead of being critical of a truck on the road, they should praise them and thank them as they pass them and say, thank you for what you're doing for our country, because they are sacrificing, being away from home. It is a tough job. And, you know, people just driving cars can be unkind. And it's what they put up with like that, and the dedication it has taken for them to drive 1 million, 2, 3, and even 4 million miles.
It's remarkable when you think about it.
Disciplined. It takes a lot of discipline to drive a truck.
You know, what's also a lot of fun is when you talk with the drivers individually and those that are inside of the building. I had the great opportunity last year to talk to a driver who is now working inside, but he's been with the company somewhere in the neighborhood of like 45 or 50 years. You know, and the dedication like that, when you think about the number of years that, you know, that somebody's put in with the organization, they're the hallmark. They're the building blocks for the future, aren't they?
They are, and they started when we took orders on with a tablet and a pencil, and that's all you needed. And they went through all that. And, of course, it's so dear to me because every time I'm here and I see these young people that came right out of high school or right out of college, and they're still here.
Right.
And it just means so much to me because I've seen them just grow. They're like my children.
Absolutely.
They're like my children. And then when I talk to these drivers and they say, you know, I've been here 29 years, I've been here 27 years and all, I mean, that's a long time to drive a truck.
When you were talking earlier during the luncheon, you know, that there was some discussion about finances and, you know, should you declare bankruptcy and things like that, and thank goodness you didn't. Was there ever a time where you might have said to yourself, you know what, we're not going to give up. We're going to keep going?
That's what we did. We kept going. It's even with that decision that Saturday when we said we just can't do this. And, you know, we are so much in debt and we aren't making it. The trucking, it was before deregulation, and it was so hard for a startup company like us to get freight because all these big companies would fight you in the courthouse to keep you and get the authority you could haul the loads.
Sure.
And so there were just so many times when I would say, and never Johnny. He was not one to ever give up. He knew he could do it. But that particular Saturday, he did realize we just can't keep doing this. You know, we're meeting with our attorney. And then, like we said, on Monday morning, we went back to work after making that decision to file bankruptcy. On Monday morning, we went back to work. And it wasn't that we said, no, we're not going to quit. We just kept working. We just kept working. And sure enough, it paid off. But there were a lot of sleepless nights, and what are we going to do?
You had mentioned a wonderful story about how your husband would visit with each worker, go to different offices each morning and give them words of encouragement and say, you know, have a great day, and I want you to do this. And then something to the effect of, you then went out and then you had to tell them that they had to get to work and do business.
If someone's coat was on the back of their chair and needed to be hung in the closet or something, I was the one that had to. He never said no to anyone.
Sure.
If it was a no, it was go talk to Johnelle about that, and they didn't realize that that's a no, or he would tell you it was okay.
Sure. Sure.
And, yes, he was very much a people person. He spoke to everybody, went by and shook hands or spoke to everybody in the company every morning, and he did it again in the afternoon before the day was over. And when we made terminal visits, we went to all of our outside terminals. Once a quarter, we would go to each outside terminal. And when we would drive up at the terminal in Southgate, California, or in Atlanta or wherever, the first thing we did was go into the break rooms where the drivers were.
Sure.
Before we ever went into the office where the other people were, we spent our first hour or so with the drivers. They were the ones that we wanted to spend our time with, was the drivers, and get to know them. And just, if we were out traveling And we at a truck stop, we stopped at truck stops.
Absolutely.
And we would
Sure.
go in the truck stops and get the J.B. Hunt drivers, and that's who we would spend our time with.
In closing, in addressing drivers out there all across North America, your drivers and other drivers that are out there, what words of encouragement could you give to those that are listening across North America right now? What would you say?
Just know there's somebody back here at J.B. Hunt that really cares about you, and everybody in the company is here to support the drivers and to try to do whatever we can to make it easier for them while they're out on the road.
Ma'am, I appreciate you visiting with me.
Well, thank you for having me,
Thank
Mark.
you so much.
So
What
nice.
a great
Thank you.
treat. And
Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, that is Mrs. J.B. Hunt, and really nice to chat with you. Let's give her a nice round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for spending a few minutes with us here on the program, live across North America. All right, I'm coming up on 20 minutes after.